welcome to our Facebook Live. And today is a special day because these last 2 days here at the Parent Revolution Facebook group, what I've been doing is sharing some strategies, giving some information, some tips, some tactics that can help you position your student for competitively, positioned colleges and universities, and to be able to make sure that they can afford it. Merit-based financial aid and other things that I taught yesterday. If you didn't see, you'll want to go back. You can access that right here in our group. On Monday, we did a sort of an introductory to what this community is setting up to be. And really, this is all about community. So today is a terrific day. We are beginning my first hot seat opportunity, and at random, I invited someone who just joined the group and said, hey, would you like to have a free consultation with me? And we'll just do it right here live on Facebook. And it gives the rest of you parents an opportunity to see what that looks like, to understand what are some of the questions that get asked in a preliminary assessment, and to be thinking about, how you can help your own son or daughter, depending on what age they are, what grade level, and what their objectives are, what they're hoping to attain. So let's, without any further ado, we're going to go ahead and bring in our special guest. And there we go. Welcome.
Hello. Thank you for having me.
I'm so pleased you're here. So just to clarify, you and I don't know each other. How long ago did you join our group?
Maybe a week and a half ago.
And how awesome is it that we can come together as moms and dads and kind of, have some information and some strategies and some dialogue amongst ourselves to support each other, so it's not like, oh my gosh, what am I supposed to be doing here? So when you first reached out, we have the 3 questions in our group. And one of the things that I had asked there was, what's most important to you right now? And you shared with me that you have an 11th grade daughter, right?
Yes.
And do you remember what you said in that response?
I'm just kind of overwhelmed right now. I can't remember exactly what I said, but just being overwhelmed and where do I even start?
Exactly. Yeah, that was pretty much it. It was like, what am I supposed to be doing right now? Where do I start? And so I'm so delighted that you are asking that question. As the parent of an 11th grader, your daughter is in the thick of it, although we're having such an unusual year because of the test optional result of the pandemic. Typically what would be happening is shifting. So we're going to need to talk about how that has changed over time, but really this is your time. So every time I do a consultation like this, and I do offer, free 20-minute consultations for folks who may be interested in what I do, there's not an agenda on my part. This is entirely a gift that I'm giving you. Like, what are your questions? Let's talk it out. Now I have a framework because what you said to me is, I don't know what I don't know. I'm not sure where to begin. And so with that in mind, I put together a few little banners that I thought would help guide our conversation. So what I thought I'd start with is just a question that I think really sets the tone, because we can sit here and talk about GPAs and test scores, and we're going to have to deal with the numbers, but like, we're moms and we know our sons and daughters, and what makes this young woman come alive. And I'd love to hear a little bit about that, because of course, what we'll do is we'll then think about how we weave that toward academic focus. So what would you say to this question? What makes her come alive?
She's an amazing young woman, very social, has tons of friends. I mean, she goes to her local public high school, but has friends at other public high schools around, private schools. Anybody who meets her just kind of wants to be her friend. And she's always there for people. People come to her constantly looking for advice and what to do. And, she is a very caring, sweet person. And so I don't know. She's fun. She's just, everybody has fun with her, laughing with her, and
wonderful.
she plays lacrosse and she's a natural born leader. She started on varsity her freshman year. And,
Wow.
I just think that, people are like kind of amazed with her a lot of the time, but she just has she has a great confidence about herself, even though she wouldn't necessarily describe herself as confident. Everybody else that meets her does.
So let me ask you, I love that you're describing her as someone who is very people focused and very outgoing. My first thoughts go toward things like, I wonder if she is somebody who's heading toward sociology, toward psychology, toward, like I start going there, and then I think, well, we would have to then explore, is this a science kid? Is this someone who really enjoys math and science? Or is this somebody who is more humanities, in which case maybe we go more toward, sociology, education? Like there are other pathways there. So this initial question is like the biggest net that we can cast, but it's a getting to know you session, right? These really are just preliminary sort of data points for me as I'm starting to think about, okay, how can I think about how I would support a student like this? So let's talk about her, her academic profile, because of course, in some of the STEM-based majors, including psychology, which it has a lot of science to it. A lot of students want to do psychology, but they don't want to do science. It's like, yeah. So can you tell me a little bit about her GPA?
I did look that up. Let's see. She has a 4.0 for weighted right now for 10th through 12th grade. And she's in the middle of 11th. She's on course right now to have a 4.0 this semester. So her freshman year honestly wasn't as good. Last year was, she did well. And then freshman year, I think it was around a 3.5-ish. She, just wasn't taking high school quite as seriously yet. Yeah. And everything has improved, which was great. She kind of realized, she's like, okay, wait, hold on a second.
Right. Okay. Well, congratulations on the 4.0. And, ninth grade is a very common time for young women and young men as well, especially young men, I've noticed. Ninth grade, sometimes it'll be a 2.2 or something. And then all of a sudden, everything connects. I actually have a chapter in my book, 4 Keys to College Admission Success, about that amazing flip of the switch that happens between 9th and 10th, because all of a sudden the neural pathways are connecting and students realize, oh, cause and effect is a thing. I better put in some effort here. So so these numbers sound really great, and there are going to be some great fit schools for her. So I think that I know, like all students, she would have taken the PSAT. The PSAT happens every October. That is something for everyone to keep in mind as something that can really matter. The National Merit Scholarship qualifying test is part of the higher scoring students. So if somebody is taking a PSAT and they land in the top 3% of their state, they can get some free money for college, and it's bragging rights on the application. So some folks do ask me, does that matter? So she's in her year where typically she would be taking the SAT or ACT this year. Now, things have not changed yet. But there is a really interesting, and I'll post in our group a link. I just saw yesterday on fairtest.org, there is a page where they are talking about which schools are planning on reverting back to requiring the test from test optional, and it's a big list. So, depending on the right fit schools, we're going to have to navigate that with her, just make sure she's got the support she needs and whatever that entails. Now, we want to connect her, whatever this intended major is, to her interests and talents. And that really is something that usually happens in my first assessment time with a student. Usually I do a 2-hour session as an intake with a student. And the first 30 minutes, I invite mom or mom and dad to be there. And then it's like, okay, thanks, guys. And sometimes they'll want to hover nearby, but it really becomes a dialogue between the student and me, because in some ways it's a passing of the baton. So you're not having to be the one who's like, what are we doing? As a mom, have you had some of those conversations with your daughter that that feel at all stressful?
Yeah, I mean, that's where we're kind of been at. She has a tool she can use from our high school that I cannot get her to get on. that's supposed to help with personality tests and all that, because she says she doesn't know what she wants to do. She thinks business, but that's about it. Hasn't narrowed it at all, and doesn't even know if business really is what she wants. Yeah, I mean, I'm constantly like, we got to do something. We got to come on. We got to figure out SATs. What are you doing? Are you doing the SAT or the ACT? I don't even remember the difference. And she doesn't want to hear it from me. That is for sure.
And I so understand that. And this is why I'm really glad that we're going to be giving you some tools to facilitate that. So a couple of things. You mentioned business. Business, of course, is a broad major. It's a broad category. Within business, there are, in many schools, over 10 sub-majors. And some of them are more impacted than others. And we're going to talk about impaction. In fact, tomorrow's topic is going to be how to choose the right fit major and how to find one where it is perhaps less competitive to get into that program because not as many students apply. And I'll do a screen share and I'll show you how I do that with my students. So that should be helpful. We never want somebody just applying into a BA program without any extra context of, are you talking accounting or are you talking finance? Are you an entrepreneur or are you talking, there are so many different directions that the word business can mean, similar to biology. It's like, okay, that's a huge category. So helping students to narrow that down. I understand what you're saying about the tool at the school. I hear this all the time. We won't name names, but I'm confident I know what tool you're talking about. And the personality test and doing widgets on a computer is not the same thing as having a conversation with a trusted mentor who's helping you figure something out. It's not an algorithm thing. It's a conversation. And, that's the kind of thing that I enjoy having those conversations and of course, liaising with the parents to understand what they're hoping for as well, so that we can all kind of get on the same page. Let's talk a little bit about, the majors. So when you see tomorrow's, we're going to think about that. You and I can have a separate conversation if you choose to about how to connect what you've stated about her interests, how to connect that to a non-impacted major. And then Friday, our topic is actually choosing between the SAT and ACT. So you didn't know that, but we're already going to be doing that this week. So big week for you over there, Jen. So that's fantastic. Now, I do want to just give some timelines, just so folks know what is really happening. So test prep is usually starting like now. And the reason for that is, I do recommend a 12-week prep cycle before a first attempt at a test. Most students do take more than one attempt. And, we're going to want to make sure that you're aware of strategies such as score choice, super score. These are things I'll talk about in more depth on Friday. But to be able to get the right score by the time she's applying, either early action, early decision, or even regular decision late this calendar year, she's applying, it's, I don't blame you for being like, it's go time, right? So, the way we architect the timeline of that is we want to avoid, I believe she's doing some AP classes this year, correct?
She has an IB English.
IB, okay. So the spring exams, we want to be careful not to have her taking SAT or ACT within the same week or two of those finals, right? So, and if we're going to avoid that, and then you've also got spring break, and there's all these gaps. So you're really looking at the puzzle pieces of where is the optimal time. First attempt typically for my clients is March or April. And then second attempt is typically June or July once those exams are done. So that is something to keep in mind. Obviously, our hot seat here is powered by my tutoring agency, Valley Prep. So we've got great tutors that do that online or in person throughout the LA area once it's safe to do that. The other thing to have on your radar right now is you want to be thinking about what's going to be going on this summer. Because a big question that the universities do tend to ask is, what were you doing in the summer between these two school years? And so summer internships and or on-campus programs are things that get put into place sometime between February and March. A lot of the on-campus programs, the deadlines are early March. So very often parents, like my phone will ring and it'll be like April or May and like, hey, we're just noticing it's almost summer. It's like, yes. And the opportunities that you could have had back in January, you do not have now. So that is something that I think is very important, and connecting my clients to those types of options is part of what I do as a consultant. So do you have any question about internships and on-campus programs? Do you understand kind of how that would support an application?
Oh, 100%. My husband and I both went to Cal Poly San Luis Obispo. So they're very big on internships and senior projects like that. So, and so we both did that while in college. And then I did a lot in high school as well. The on-campus, I definitely have got stuff starting last year for her, lots of things in the mail. And I did see some great programs. She wasn't interested because she wants to be with her friends. So that's something that probably would need somebody else's help with guiding, know, when I tried to bring it up last year, and obviously this last summer wouldn't have worked, but it was something that I looked into when I received the information. I was like, oh, this would be great. And she was like, no, that's okay. So
I remember a client of mine just a few months ago, and well, it would have been last summer now. She was very much like your daughter. She's out in Malibu, and she basically was saying, I don't want to do anything. I just want to spend time with my friends. And what I had to say to her once she was my client was, you do understand that your friends are going to graduate and go off to college next year, right? You do understand that, it's like we're at the end. It's like if you watch High School Musical, you can see what happens. Everybody, we're all in this together until we're not, And so that is a hard thing, a transition, and it's a loss. It's something that a lot of teenagers have to grieve. And I understand the wanting to stay with the familiar, but, obviously this is why when we're calling it Parent Revolution, we want to make sure that parents have this information so they can help their student do what they need to do so that when the time comes to submit applications, they're not, they don't have what they need to be able to say. The reason I love internships and the right on-campus programs is that it can really sort of buttress the way that the student is going to be perceived by the admissions committee. You can, I call it weaving the narrative thread of the application. So when you get to the essay, you've got to have something to weave. You've got to have the yarn before you can make the tapestry, right? So like, what are those threads? And they need to be not just disconnected things. They need to be things that feel like, okay, I kind of had my head in the game around this. So if it's business, like I've got a student I'm working with this year, she did an internship over last summer through a colleague of her father's. We put that together in the real estate industry because real estate is a business, and she was able to do a 4-week internship, and that person on letterhead stationery wrote a beautiful letter of recommendation. And now all of that ties with the classes that she took. And so you end up getting this cohesive impression of a student that's not going to be possible otherwise. So it is real important to get that stuff in place. The other thing I'll mention to you is courses. So typically in the public schools, and your daughter does go to a public high school, correct? So most of the counselors, but with February, March is when they start bringing the kids in and saying, here's your schedule for next year, right? And that's true for 8th graders into 9th into 10th, et cetera, as well. I can't emphasize enough how important it is for parents to slow down and consider advocating for the correct amount of rigor in those courses for their student. Just because somebody who's very busy in a counseling office said, here's your schedule, doesn't mean you go, okay. It means you go, I noticed there's no honors here, and my student's in 9th grade. I want her in at least one honors class. Her strongest subject is actually English. I'd like her placed in honors English, and you help advocate for that. And by 10th grade, at least 2 honors or honors in pre-IB or pre-AP, and so on. 3 by 11th grade, 4 by 12th grade. There has to be ongoing sort of increase of rigor to compete again for the more selective schools. Now, of course, you can go to all kinds of wonderful schools, including many of the state schools, without putting yourself through all that drama, right? But for the kids who are looking, and I do want to say that it's not that like most of the students I support go Ivy, although I've got kids at, Dartmouth and, and Columbia, and, I do that, but that's maybe 10, 15% of my clients. Most of my kids, they're like, can you get me into UCLA, or, I really want to go to USC or NYU or UVA, right? So just keeping in mind that the course rigor is a hugely important thing. That's one of the main things, in fact, that the colleges look at. So I think that keeping that in mind is one of your primary things that you can be doing right now, because you were saying, I don't know what I should be doing. So these are the things that you can be doing and should be doing, and also that others, even if they're students or 9th or 10th grade, these are things that all parents should have on their radar right now. So that's kind of the framework that I had. So of all of the things that we just talked about, I just want to give you carte blanche to ask me anything you want, and we won't stop until you're done with questions.
Oh no, because I can talk.
All day.
Once I get going. So I'm excited for Friday because I didn't know. That was definitely one of my big questions. Was I remember there was a huge thing when I was in school about ACT versus SAT, and I was really wondering about the differences in those two. But I can wait for Friday, and then I really want a lot to know about that. And because I feel that is important right now. We've been kind of talking to my daughter about it since school started. Like, hey, what are you going to do? What are you going to do? Find something, figure out what you're going to do for a class, this and that. And it was funny that you said that January is the month, because just the other day, my husband and I looked at her like, you got to figure this out now. Like, this is coming up soon.
Yeah.
So,
and that will what's going to happen is this semester will be a blur, and then it's finals, it's first and second attempt. Then you've got to start the essay process, and you start that essay process in the summer. You do not wait till senior year, because that tanks the senior fall GPA, and then that's a problem. So, that starts in July. So there's this whole year, I can tell you month by month what you're going to be doing. The SAT, ACT, let me just say this, because I don't want to drag it out or anything. Like, you mentioned that she is interested in business. I also heard you say things that make me think she might be humanities towards sociology or psychology. Possibly it's something we could at least ask her, just kind of see what sounds interesting to her. With that in mind, either test could be appropriate. Let me ask you this. Do you find that she is more comfortable and inclined in scoring higher in math courses or in English?
Definitely English.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that.
She math and science, she can get A's in those classes, but has to try a lot harder.
Okay.
And that's what she's in a honors, whatever the science is, the last 2 years, but did not do anything for math. Math, she's the regular course. But IB English, because that's really where her strong suit is. English up until this year was always the breeze of an A. It was like, whatever, I don't have to think about it. So
right.
Honestly, she's not a test taker.
So yeah, of course, and what we have to say, of course, is that these exams are maddening. The stakes, the bias that is implicit there. If you read in the news and do any research, there's a lot of reasons why most people who are in this industry that I'm in, we don't like these exams very much, but we of course have to navigate them for the sake of the students. I want to tell you that ACT has 4 sections, and one of them is a science section. There is no science section in the SAT. The ACT math is 1/4 of the 4 sections. It's half of the SAT. So there's a trade-off there. My gut is she might be an SAT student. But I would want to take a deeper dive to looking at scores and things like that before I would make a recommendation. Unfortunately, you know what a lot of schools do is they say, let's just have them try both and see how they do. And it's like, really? Okay, I have a great idea. Why don't you go spend the next 2 Saturdays getting up at 6 a.m. and having a pencil in your hand at 8 a.m. at a desk with a bunch of other people for 4 hours, 2 Saturdays in a row. Is that really what we're saying? Is that because it's like so easy to say that, right? But like, really, is that what we're doing? So, yeah, choosing a strategic test will be important, and we'll go into much more detail on that.
Because she's looking at a state as well, and she does not want to stay in California. That is her objection is to get out. She says she probably wants to live in California as an adult, so this is her opportunity to live someplace else and experience something else.
A lot of kids go right from here directly to the East Coast schools, and that's a lot of kids that I support. I think, depending on the family's preferences and capacities and everything else, that can be beautiful. I would also mention, we're talking right now about undergraduate, right? For many students, like she may end up wanting to do an MBA, not just an undergraduate BA. And there are like 4+1 programs, by the way, where if she is an MBA client, maybe what she wants to do is find a program where it's baked in that you do 5 years and you graduate with the master's. So those are called 4+1 programs. It's an MBA option. Not all schools have that, but those are the kinds of things, because right now, I was thinking of this when I was doing the financial aid presentation yesterday. So many parents will look at the yearly cost. I showed a slide about the yearly cost of a college or university based on private, public, state. Most parents look at that and they multiply by 4 in their head, and they're like, okay, that's my total amount. But the truth is, there is a big trend of kids needing 5 years and sometimes 6 years to complete an undergrad degree. And there's a lot of reasons for that, and a lot of them are economic, but it just drags out the amount of money that's coming out of the parents' pocket. So picking the right program on the front end so that they're not going to the wrong school, hating it, coming back after Thanksgiving break of their freshman year. I mean, that's a lot of kids, unfortunately. And a lot of the referrals that I get, I wouldn't say a lot, but I've had my fair share of referrals of people who didn't know me yet. And then they find out, and then they come to me and they're like, okay, so should we be doing a gap year? Like, what do we do? Because my student went to XYZ college, hated it, and now it's November, December, or January. Usually this is the time when people are going, yeah, this wasn't the right fit. And you're at least 20K in the hole now, in a lot of cases. So why would we want to waste that money? Other thoughts or topics that are coming to your mind as we're chatting? This is just so great to
this is wonderful. It just makes me realize how much there is to do. It's been a long time since I did this, and then but I remember taking the SAT stuff and doing all that. I just don't remember when and what. And I think the biggest thing is getting my daughter to speak to you, because that's where right now I'm having the hardest time, is getting her on board of, this is the time to start looking. This is the time to start figuring things out. We want to try to do a college tour. I don't know how easy that's going to be with COVID. That's another thing.
I have a wonderful resource for you, Jen, and I'm going to share it with you just as my gift. It's over 900 virtual campus tours on the spreadsheet. So I've been sharing that with my clients. Allow me to share that with you, please. And that'll be at least a way during the pandemic to begin. There's some really great information on this resource. And yes, campus tours are very important, especially if you're talking East Coast. You know, kids from Southern California have no idea what a coat is sometimes. They're like, I want to go to Skidmore. I'm gonna go to, you know, like, do you understand what Vermont is? Like,
Definitely.
Stuff that falls from the sky, you know. I would consider it a privilege to meet with your daughter, and please know that when I talk with parents, just like what we've done here today in this brief 30-minute hot seat, the objective is to determine, is there value that I can bring to make your life easier and to support your student? And if so, it still comes back to a mutual assessment, because, you know, obviously, you know, families apply to work with me, and then I also want to assess, like, do I feel like the student is gonna, because nobody wants to be in, now I will say, I've got a pretty great track record. I haven't had too many kids who are like, oh, I don't want to work with her. I mean, usually it ends up being a lot of fun. And I've got kids who, you know, they're like my friends on Facebook and stuff. It's really interesting how you get to know the parents and you get to know the families, and you do. It's a privilege. I always end up feeling like I'm the aunt that kind of came in and, you know, helped solve a problem. So you know, I'd be happy. So you and I can talk about that offline. Let's talk about making some time.
Thank you so much. And I wish I had more focus. You know, that's where I think my biggest issue right now is not knowing.
I will set a timeline, you know, for each client that I work with, to make sure that you literally have the monthly checklist of, here's what we're doing. Here's what we need. Here's, you know, and saving the time and the resources for where it's really most needed. Which, when we get to essays, that's time intensive. You know, yeah. Personal statement plus all the supplementals, that gets to be, you know, 10, 20, sometimes more hours for a student to really craft what they need to craft. So more to be revealed, but for now, this has been our first hot seat. So we did it. Thank you for being here. I'll be in touch with you in our little Facebook chat. And for everyone else, I hope that you found value in this hot seat. If you are interested in a complimentary consultation with me, just like what Jen just did, please reach out to me directly in private message. And I will be taking some additional applications for next week. I just decided 2021 is the year of showing up live on Facebook, because heaven knows I'm otherwise isolated. So we'll just hang out here together. And thanks again, everyone, for being here. Thank you so much again, Jen.
Thank you.